Good morning all, welcome back to the channel. What Load of Ball, episode 40, and this is attempt 2 at episode 40. So last episode I did the backing display for the dash and the gauges to convert to mile an hour, and it didn't quite go to plan. Off the bat, miles per hour worked okay, fuel didn't, revs didn't, coolant was a bit sketchy. I say this is attempt 2 at the video because I did start another video where I took it all apart again and tried to fix it, and I didn't actually manage to improve it. So we're going to sort that today. I've got something quite exciting. It might be in the title already, I don't know. I haven't thought of a way to play it up a bit, but yeah, I'm going to fit Nismo gauges. I think I've wanted a set of these for a long time. I think this is a really fly Stagea upgrade. Pretty cool that Nismo made it for them. As you can see, the kilometers go up a lot higher, so that's 280 kilometers. It has the speed limiter removed, so on this style there is a built-in speed limiter. And although I'm using a standalone ECU, you'd think that would be okay, but I'm pretty sure that it limits it via the trans. I've had some other problems this week which would confirm that, which I'll talk about in a bit. So yeah, got these to fit. I've written down my kilometers. It's another point of the video really, is just to get this all in documented about the changeover. So I'm on 133,991. We'll plug it in. I think this is around about 140. So at least I'll get this all recorded today, and then I'm looking into getting a mileage correction so that it is what the chassis is, because I'm a bit OCD about that kind of thing. So yeah, I'm going to show you taking it apart again, because I made a few observations, a few easier things to take it apart that I spotted when I did it second time round, which I put in the other video, but hey, I never uploaded that one. And then a bit later on I'll talk you through some other things which I've been up to, because I've made some other exciting advancements with the ECU Master. Just want to say, I guess before we go any further, a big thanks and a big up to Denny over in Victoria in Australia. So not only did Denny hook me up with these, but he's also made some phenomenal progress with a Haltech system in the M35. So he's using a Haltech Elite 2500, I think, having swapped out a 750 which didn't have enough IO. Pretty well, he's used my pinout document, so pretty much the same setup as I'm running with the ECU Master. We've both actually been working on dummy throttle bodies this week and bouncing ideas back and forth, so that's been pretty cool. He is taking it to another level though, and that's kind of how I ended up with this. Is he's replaced the stock dash with a Haltech display. He's also working with Haltech on getting the trans control sorted, so talking to the solenoids inside the trans to get that all sorted. So Haltech have been helping somewhat with that. Obviously I'm going for manual, and I should have been doing that this week, but I didn't feel like I had enough time, didn't have enough spare pennies for the I need one of those last minute type things. So yeah, no manual swap at the moment, but some of the advancements that I made with the ECU Master, I keep pointing down here, you can't see it, but I've spent the last few days in that footwell and on that side of the car, but today we're going to be over here. So yeah, we'll talk about them a bit later. Let's crack on with getting this out. Okay, so first thing I did was just popped off this top fascia. Pop. There's no screws or anything, it just, you pull it and it comes up. Then I took out its counterpart, which is underneath, which has 4 screws, Phillips or Posi. So yeah, get them out. Disconnect your LED if you have one, don't yeet it off. Okay, Then the next thing I want to do is to get this off. So I'm gonna, it's been a couple of weeks since I've been here, so I'm gonna have a look at that and then let you know how I did it. Okay, then the next thing to do was to take out the stalks. So the right hand side one, it's just got this docking header there. There's a clip at the top and a clip at the bottom where my fingers are, and you kind of need to pinch, pull, and then twist it up and out. It is a little bit tight, and I think when I did the video the other time, let's try and refocus, sorry, I messed around with unscrewing this, and you don't need to do that. So yeah, don't bother doing that. I didn't do that the second time around. The left hand one, it has the docking header, and then there's also a harness connector on the back as well. So same process, you've got a pinch point top and bottom, pop it out, twist it up, and this one you do need to be pretty firm. This will flex enough for it to come out, okay, so don't worry. I've done it a few times now and not broken it yet. Cool, those are out. Looks like the next things to do are going to be to undo these. There's one either side, there might be a couple underneath as well from memory. That should take off the top shell then, and then there's also some 10 mils. You can't see my hand. Oh yeah, there's my finger. See the bolt popping up? There's one there, and then there's one either side. So for that you're going to need a 10 mil and probably an extension. I'll confirm after I've done it. Coolio, right. We are good to go. So it was those two 10 mils that we could see either side. Okay, and then there's another couple further back, like one up there and one up in here, and you need to kind of flex that out, and I used a bar about that long to reach it. You need one at least that long, maybe even a hinge. It was quite tricky. That's now free to go. And then I've got the tricky bit of unplugging the connectors, because there's not much room on that. Last time I did it, I kind of got outside the vehicle and I was looking through the windscreen, but using my hands here, and then I used a trim tool just to pop the connector clip and then pop it out. Also, sorry, we're a bit overly zoomed in on this video today. My next door neighbour's got a new vehicle and I'm just trying to keep that out of shot. So if we're in this perspective, we can't see that. So yeah, I'm going to do that, get that disconnected. Then we've got to split the cluster from the hood and rinse and repeat. Also, don't forget about the connector on the other side for this one. All right. Again, I use my trim tool because it's quite tricky to get to, and the clip on the connector is quite small. So that's for that one there. That should give you a bit more room to pull that off to get to the other connectors. Okay, so they're all disconnected, just as I described. Before I take this out, I thought I'd go into a little bit more detail about where I think I went wrong when installing this fascia, because I still think it is a cost-effective way and probably a good way to convert to mile an hour. But obviously I ruined my set. So where I think I went wrong. So I think every time that I removed the sweepers, I'm going to call them the sweepers, the red things, I should have really heated up the center so that they just kind of popped off and I didn't have to pull them off so much. The first time I took them off, I did that. I left them out in the sun, but I think I should have heated them up a bit more with a hairdryer or a heat gun, just to make that easier. Then I shouldn't have put them back on until I'd put the cluster back in the vehicle. That was a key thing. I also recommend that before you do the job, you fill up your fuel tank, which I know is expensive, but at least then you know that with the ignition off, the fuel should be down, and with the ignition on, that gauge should be all the way up. I didn't do that at the time. I did that halfway through when I tried to fix it, but I still couldn't get it to work as I wanted it to. So do it with caution. If you're good at taking things apart, it's definitely something that you can do. if you're not good at taking things apart, then don't give it a try, because it is a fiddly one. I think I'm pretty good at that kind of thing, and I still managed to ruin it. But yeah, in hindsight, what I should have done was heat up the centers when I removed them, then put the cluster back in the car, connected it, put the ignition on, then heat up the sweepers again to refit them with ignition off. And then before putting anything else back together, try it with ignition on. See, does the fuel gauge go up? Get it running. Does the coolant temp get to temperature? Give it some revs. Then, if it's safe to do so, give it a drive to make sure that your mile an hour is okay. All right. Then reassemble everything. All right, don't be as confident as I was that it all went smoothly and put everything back together. Test it. Yeah. And I'm actually going to have this fascia up for sale, so that's the main reason why I'm encouraging that it is possible. Okay, but that's where I went wrong. If you're in the UK or anywhere, keep an eye on the UK M35 owners Facebook group, because I'll put it up for sale there. I won't want much for it, but it's not going to be any use to me. But that's definitely where I went wrong. Now, what am I going to do about mile an hour? So, Nismo is definitely in kilometers. I'm concerned that if I do the electrical trick to make it mile an hour, which is kind of the sensible thing, I'm not actually going to get much resolution in mile an hour. If you look, that's going to be like my whole range. So I think I'm going to keep this in kilometers. I'm aiming to get that corrected so it matches the chassis. But one of the advancements that I have made this week is I've now got a working speed signal going into the ECU master, and I didn't get that right first time round. I'd actually misread someone else's pinout document, totally my fault, and I tapped into the wrong wire on the trans control, so I wasn't actually picking up speed. Now that I am picking up speed, I'm probably going to look into either getting like a CAN display, like a little pod similar to this one, or just some way that I can display mile an hour and just leave that as it is and not mess with it. So that's my current thinking. Might change my mind on that. If I do, I'll let you know. Right, let's crack on with this because I'm waffling a lot. Okay, so I've rolled this over now. There's a couple of Phillips here to take out, and then you've got a couple of clips sort of in there and in there. So I'm going to use my trim tool now just to pop those, and then this should just pop out and separate from the surround. And they're in. Beautiful. When it comes to putting in this hood again, you kind of need to twist it from this way and kind of hook it in, because this leg is longer than the other side, so it needs to come in that way. Looks really nice, really handsome. I was a bit worried that the backings were going to be a bit too white and it was going to be a bit much, but this glass is smoked, so it's not as garish. I've compared it to the other one, which is like a very clear, bright perspex, but yeah, this one's definitely smoked. Gonna have a quick coffee break, and then come back and put all the bolts and stuff in, and yeah, get it all back together, and then we'll talk about a few other things I've been up to. Okay, back at it. Had a coffee. Time to put all the bolts back in. I fired it up, made sure it worked. Haven't been anywhere, but everything works as it should. Actually, slightly less kilometers than my other one, so I wish I hadn't made a point about that. I could have clocked it a bit, but I thought it was more, but that's fine. I still look to get it corrected because I would like it to marry up, but yeah, at least that's a lot nearer than I thought it was going to be. I'm literally 2,000 kilometers out, maybe a little bit more. So first bolt I'm going to put in is this awkward one right here. I'm going to make the most of everything being loose because that'll make it easier to get to it, and then I'll do the one on the other side that's also a bit awkward to get to at the back. Where am I? Up here, and then I'll do the front too, and then put the other bit back on. Right, that's all bolted down. I actually did it slightly differently to how I said. with it all flapping about, it was a bit tricky to get to that one, to get it all to all line up. So I got the front two in, the visible ones. Then I made the most of it being solid and being able to flex it to get in there. And I actually managed to get my hand right in there. Cut my knuckles a little bit, but it's all in there. So yeah, that's good. I'm gonna get the stalks back in. They, just as I said, when you take them out, you've got to kind of slot them in from above, and then I can get the fascia back on. And then I think I'm gonna actually, then there's the under tray to go on as well. That's easy enough, I won't cover that. I think I might actually delete this and prepare that, get that ready to sell, because I don't use that anymore. That's my Innovate boost controller and O2 thing, which I used to use. I have been using it as a boost gauge, but I don't really need it, so let's simplify things, and we'll get that disconnected as well. So yeah, don't forget those either side before you put the stalks in, as I almost did. White on the right, blunk, blunk. I'll do that now. Unfortunately, I'm on my own today, so I haven't got anyone to hold the camera. And otherwise, I'd show you how to do that, but I can't do both at the same time. Right, we're all back together. Happy days. Only observation or thing to do, I think, is when you put the cowling back on, put on the bottom first. Otherwise, the top doesn't have anything to clip to. I did get rid of my gauge. I didn't need to show you any of that. I just cut and isolated some wires underneath. I've updated my bit of paper with zig kilometers, so I've got a bit of a record. If I do find someone to correct it, I'll at least I've got record of the difference. Like I said, I'm not as worried about that as I thought I was going to be, when I thought it was going to be a lot higher. I thought it was in the 140s, so the fact that it's so near, I'm happy. I'm not planning to take it. I'm not planning to sell it anytime soon. I'm going to pause, I'm going to have a quick coffee, grab my laptop, and then I'll show you some of the cool stuff that I've been up to and explain what I'm going to be doing later on this week and in a future video. Right, apologies for the poor lighting. I can't really make this any better. The sun's in the wrong place at the moment. I'll talk you through it anyway. I've got everything kind of ready, so I can just sort of plough through it. So what I've been up to over the last couple of weeks, kind of redone how I've tuned the LPG. I found that using the table switch in the EMU Black wasn't working all that effectively. So I've gone back to using the singular VE table. I've done quite a lot of tuning on that in petrol mode to get that better. I've also done a lot of work on hot starts, which was an issue. I'd like to thank Vitali for that, from the Boost factory over in Canada, who I've met through the ECU Master Facebook group. He's helped me a couple of times. He helped me a couple of years ago during winter with cold starts, and helped me dial in the hot starts this summer, so that's been really cool. Once I got that done, then I sort of came back and started the LPG from scratch, and big thanks to my son Rupert. We went on quite a long drive. We went on a day trip to Bristol, and the poor chap, the whole way there, he was tuning this table for me, doing an excellent job. So this is something which I just kind of set originally to get the idle lambda values right, and then I was doing all the tuning from the 3D table in the ECU Master. But I'm going to go back to that later, but I'm putting the effort into this multiplier table. So what this does is it looks at the amount of injector opening time for the petrol injector, and then it applies a multiplier to that for the gas injector. So for instance, if the petrol injector is open at 4, or open for 4 milliseconds, it's going to have a multiplier on it of about 1.81. So the way that we've worked that out, I used Real Dash on my phone so I could watch the lambda values. So I use that anyway all the time, just to keep an eye on my target versus my measured lambda. And then as we were driving, we were adjusting these points to get those lambdas to follow as much as possible, and I've got it better than it's ever been before. The closed loop from the Black didn't really do a good job of picking up and catching the fuel trims before. Now that this is dialed in, it's brilliant. It's as tight as it was, or tight as it is when we were doing petrol. So still got a little bit to do on this one. Yeah, need to do a few more big pulls to kind of work out this region. I know that I'm kind of, in fact today I've just pulled this down. I turned off petrol because I want to get this all working. So for a while I was running staged injection, which I still plan to run, but I want to get this dialed in a bit more before I get that set up. So yeah, I've actually pulled down the top end a little bit this morning just so that it matches this end, because what we're finding is whenever we get up here it's been really rich, and we've been pulling it down and pulling it down and pulling it down. So I think that's a safe bet for now. Once I've got a co-driver back again, then we'll look to redo that. So yeah, that's what I've been doing with the LPG. Also worked out that if I stream ECU master data via OBD, I can pick that up via the CAN in the gas software, which is pretty cool. Unfortunately, these are the only things which come through in that stream, so I'm going to reach out to ECU master and see whether that's correct. What I'd really like is fuel trims. If we can get fuel trims through that stream, then the gas ECU can do fuel trims within its own software, short-term fuel trims and learning and stuff like that. So that'd be really cool. If not, I might reach out to AC Stag, who are also a Polish company, and see whether they can somehow get the ECU master full CAN stream library in their software, and then we can just pull up everything that would be streamed to a dash or a PDM or whatever. So yeah, that's what I've been doing with the LPG. I'm just going to jump over now to the ECU master stuff. Once I kind of realised I wasn't going to be doing the manual swap over the last couple of weeks, I thought I would put some time and effort into buttoning up a few other little things which have been troubling me. One thing which sparked that was I had a TPS code to do with the dummy throttle body. It came out of nowhere, and it actually caused a weird ghosting where the engine, something was into limp mode. The engine would rev to about 3,000 revs and it wouldn't go any further than that. And it was strange how that was still being able to be controlled by the OEM, despite the fact that the Black has control of a lot of stuff. So I think all to do with the gearbox, perhaps how the torque converter gets loaded up, maybe it limits it. It drove quite smoothly up until 3,000 revs, but then it wouldn't go any further than that. So with the error with the TPS, I thought that it might be a good time to try and delete the dummy throttle body. I was told that this is the best way to do it, and I've always wanted to get rid of it and try tapping that TPS signal off of the real throttle body. And everything was giving me the impression that TPS 1 on this thing wasn't working. Nissan data scan has been glitching and like properly trolling me. Fortunately, I say fortunately or unfortunately, Denny, who I mentioned earlier, he's been going through all this as well, and he's also been having a few glitches with Nissan data scan. So I'll probably pop them an email just to let them know, because they're pretty good at their support. It'll be good to get that kind of sorted. So yeah, I tried moving that TPS signal to the engine. Although it was picking it up, the problem was that this does a plausibility check when the ignition gets turned off. So it opens and closes the throttle plate. That sends a signal to the OEM ECU. If that doesn't happen, then it throws the code anyway. So I moved it back onto it. Also should note, I moved the 5-volt supply, something again that I wanted to do for ages. I'm going to revisit that because I'm not happy. I moved it so that it came from the ECU master. I got a lot cleaner signal here on drive-by-wire position, like really nice line, and with it on the 5-volt coming from the OEM ECU, it's ever so slight noise and I'm a little bit picky about it. So Danny's done his slightly differently. I'm going to try how he's done it and hopefully that'll work. So managed to fix the TPS. While in the corner, I also fixed, which has never worked, vehicle speed sensor. So now I've got the working vehicle speed coming into the ECU master. Really chuffed with that. Turns out I tapped into the wrong wire on the TCM when I did the install a couple of years ago. I misread the pinout which I was reading, or misunderstood it rather. Never got it to work, always thought it was settings, but anyway, got it work. I've updated my pinout document, and I'll put a link to that because there's a few other things which I found along the way. So I'll update that. I'll put, this is currently 1.1, but I'll save a 1.2 version. I'll put a link to that in the description. I'll also put that onto the tuners page. Yeah, so back over here, got speed working. So now that I've got speed working, that means that I can utilize flat shift strategies. Okay, so if you remember, I've got this CAN analog input 3, which is a CAN message from the TCM. It's a torque reduction request. So what that's doing is the TCM is saying to the factory ECU, hey, I want to change gear soon. Would you mind reducing torque for a second so that I can do the gear shift? So I had a custom table which worked by retarding. Didn't think it worked all that effectively, so I wanted to use the actual strategy for a flat shift, which is essentially what I'm looking to do. I've got no clutch input. I want to be able to have my throttle pedal flat to the floor and the gear change to happen smoothly like it would do on the OEM setup. So that I've tested, it's already working. It needs refining. If anyone could advise on settings for that, I'd be really grateful. Alongside doing that, I also set up a brake pedal. So now, again, I had that onto the wrong wire. So I've corrected that in the pinout. That now works. So now that I've got a brake switch coming in, I can set up launch control. So when it comes to drag racing, I'll be able to sit on the line. I'll be able to load up the torque converter to, or just below its stall, I guess, to hopefully build up boost. I'll be able to have my foot flat to the floor, and then as soon as I lift off the brake, I'll be able to pull off on boost and hopefully get a really good start. So again, I've been testing the principle on that one. I've got it working, but it needs a bit of refinement. Again, if anyone can help with info on that, I'd be really grateful. Cool, almost there. So I guess the next video, what I'm planning to do later on this week, I'm going to borrow a ECU master CAN to USB, and I'm going to sniff out the air conditioning signal from the OEM system. I've got it jerry rigged at the moment with a 12 volt, so that what I do is I flip a switch. The ECU master then thinks that that button's been pressed. It bumps the revs. I then press that, and then AC works, which has been really good this summer because we did actually have some really hot weeks back in June. But yeah, I'm actually going to take the time to work out that in CAN, and then I can put that as a receive message in the ECU master and pick up that when that goes on and get that rev boost from that to then free up an analog input, because it wasn't working. I tried it to ground, it didn't work. For some reason it needs a positive input. Cool, right, been a bit of a waffle this one, but thank you for watching. Thank you for the patience on the lack of videos as well. I've been doing like lots of little things which just haven't been worth filming, and have been pretty busy as well. When I do get round to the manual swap, I will be doing a proper video on that. That's not going to be happening anytime soon though. So thanks for watching. If you've enjoyed the video, please give it a like. If you've not subscribed already, that would be really cool. We're up to 212 subscribers now, which is awesome, and still getting like thousands of minutes of views per month, which I think's awesome because I haven't been uploading all that regularly, but y'all still watching my stuff, so that's what makes it worthwhile. Thanks a lot. I'll see you very soon, episode 41, where we do some CAN-BUS hacking. Cheers.